Hello and welcome to another Lord of the Rings Rise to War video. I'm the player who plays with the King Under the Mountain, and today we are going to be doing a season update review, showing you what's been going on the map, and trying to tell you why I think this is probably the most balanced server I've ever seen. We're going through all the normal good stuff. We're going to show some battle reports to show how well Saruman's been doing with Bow Knights, and the fact that he's now got a 2 refined unique. The map is probably going to be the main focus, and we're going to show you 2 different styles of play, I think is probably the other thing as well. So, and I guess we'll start at the beginning with the leaderboards. So, we still have Mavius, King Farmer of Middle-earth. He is still number 1. There is now a bear in 2nd, and there is some salt in 3rd. So you'll see the map has probably changed slightly by this. I have no idea how anyone from Toby is still in 5th. But there you go. So I've gone from 2nd to 23rd in about 5 days, which is, for me, that's like almost like ripping out my heart and making me want to cry from a Tiles point of view, I would say. We'll just go through the top 50 because it is a mix of many different people now. So you do have some Odin in there, you have some DK, you have some Otter, you've got some Bear, lots of Bear actually. You've got some Salt, you've got some Toby, a little bit of wind sprinkled down below. That sounds random in itself. And then still some honk. And just to kind of show you, I did kind of allude to this in the last video, but just to prove that I may know what I'm talking about sometimes. Fellowship affluence has changed quite dramatically. So you will probably note from the last video that we had Hunk and Toby, and of course Microdong, the Mordor Kingdom, had roughly 4 million each. So you will tell by no spoiler alert that our kingdom has got slightly smaller, particularly on tiles. So Bear have moved up the top. I think when we last looked they were about 3.5 million, which was very respectable, now even more respectable. And again, with no spoiler alert, the DK Kingdom have increased their amount of production. And Salt have also increased their amount of production, and so have Loth. Linden's still looking good, Angmar's still looking good. And the rest of the Loth is here. And then Coffer have also increased. They've been really good alongside DK. I don't know if they played like that before they met DK, but they have basically become a little DK. Better make sure I say that properly, and probably that the subtitles work properly for that one. We have Animal in Gondor, and then you have Spud, and Theo were knocking around somewhere in here, yeah, from Angmar. And there's some Linden sprinkled in. It's been a really active server. There's been a lot going on, and I'm really going to try and talk through that in this kind of period of time. So we're going to start by focusing on the top right corner of the map, I would guess, in the Erebor Kingdom. Now you will see that Erebor have taken back Dale, where my mouse is, and you will see they have we've been pushed away from the Erebor capital of Erebor, spoiler alert. We still own Elven King's Hall from Loth. How long we do that for, I'm not so sure. But Erebor have basically expanded their border. They came down through here. So what basically happened from Erebor, which is the DK Kingdom, they had Coffer at this pass here for a long period of time. We were holding them off. So they actually faked to come really south and then kind of went up through here into East Bight. Came through this pass and basically trashed us in this area here. At the same time, we were being squeezed by Loth from SAV. Loth is Otter, Odin, and of course, the name that escapes me in all this is Wind. So what we tried to do is try to take some pressure off Bear. Now, at the moment, the Mordor Kingdom still looks pretty healthy. I would suspect at some point today that Central Mirkwood will be lost, and I would expect at some point in the next few days this area here will also be lost. Bear from Arnor are coming across here, so you'll see by this pretty exciting pin here, 1 day, 20 million participants, 7.4 million deaths. Now Bear are getting the better of this. I would expect that Karas will go to them at some point today. Interestingly, that Karas is even still neutral at this stage, to be honest. But Bear will be coming this way, and they will be entering SAV. So what we try to do is try to take pressure off Bear to allow them time to get into this kind of area. They've done that. But the cost to us has been pretty painful, to be honest, this past week or so. But this is kind of the whole point in the game. You get people centrally so they can help each other. So what we've done is Honk are kind of in this area here, and they are holding off, waiting in this area with Bear. And you now have Toby down here, which is us. And that's why you now have pins here, which are just growing because they are kind of in the last couple of days. As we've been uprooted from here, that's why this pin is now getting lower. We've kind of come south and decided to try and defend the Darklands area and push these territories. We regained one last night because a few people from the Fellowship decided to do that on their own, which was very impressive, to be honest. But there are lots of little pins around here. So you'll see there are many pins across the entirety of the map. There is a pin in the top left corner of the map, which is the Shire still. I mean, the Hobbits by this point must be pretty dead and decimated. It's the desolation of the Shire all over again. But this time it's between Gondor and Lindon. And Salt are on top of this pin, which has been going for a long time now, at 4.1 million dead. There is still a pin here between Animal, Theo, Spod, Bear, and Little Theo, and Salt and Cope, which has got 3.8 million dead. So it's been a server, and this is what I mean by balance in particular. Whenever someone has changed direction slightly, so as soon as we took some pressure off Bear were able to come across. As soon as we got hit by Luff and DK, we lost land instantly. And this is what makes this server really exciting, because everyone is kind of around that central region. And if we're being brutally honest, I still don't know who's going to win this server. We have taken a massive backward step in the last week, don't get me wrong. And DK, well, Erebor and Luff in general have played really, really well. But because it's so early in the season, I think it's day 36, there's still so much time left that actually anything could still happen in this server, and we will still be quite central as well. And this is my point. I don't think I've ever played in a server that has been or felt this balanced, and for different reasons. Now, what I will allude to here is that there is a different power dynamic in this server than what most teams are used to. And it is why, as far as I'm concerned, DK are probably, if not the best team in the game, they are right up there. And it is not necessarily due to the fact that they have a load of Krakens and a load of whales. It is their movement. It is the fact that they are continuously online. It is the way they tile. It's the way they hit smart. I don't think I know a 200-person kingdom who plays that well consistently on most days. And they've learnt very early on. So the real power dynamic here is Bear. They are, as a single fellowship, the strongest fellowship on this server. They were being overrun by numbers. There is a strong Luff in general with 3 fellowships, but they were being overrun by numbers from being hit from all sides here. We, as a 240, 250 odd, I suppose, with Dong, are probably the strongest strength kingdom, is probably how I would do it. But we don't move as well as Erebor. So Erebor have stuck to their tactic. They have flanked. They engage well. They take a lot of towers well. To be honest, there's a big time dynamic in this with them being a sort of Asian heavy team. We get hit generally while we're sleeping. We wake up, fight the fires, move on. And there's a meticulous plan behind that, and they do not engage throughout those hours unless they really have to. So if you get them to a choke point, they will throw people at you. And apart from that, they will not engage. And it's really clever tactics. And that's why some of the pins are a bit lower, and that's why trying to get to the merit boards, this isn't really a season where your merit board is going to actually kind of give you a full reflection of the season. If you could have a stat of how many thousand towers you flipped in the season, it would probably give you more of a... That is the merit of this season on the east side of the map. So that's kind of the map situation. Like I say, I will keep people updated on this server because playing in it has been stressful but also really, really rewarding for a lot of different players. And I think you can learn so much from a server like this that strength is not everything. So that's the map. I'll try and very quickly give you an example of this because, and this tiling. So there is a fort cluster of ours here. So what they do is they make you have to do this kind of scenario now. And then as you take tiles, they come back and either path through and take more tiles. I'll kind of just send Sauron back to here, I guess, actually, while I'm waiting. Or what they do is they then add on to the tiles that you've already taken. So this or earlier on was not red at all. We now have a blue area here, which is great. But realistically, what they do is they add more red tiles as you go through, because as you take one from them, they add another one. And they just have that level of consistency that even in their downtime, it's really difficult to get through them because they just path so well. Really interesting team with really interesting dynamics. Now, that's not to say that they also haven't got fires, because they have. So this will lead me quite nicely into my gear. And Dane has stayed the same. Gandalf the White has stayed the same. Saruman had a slight bump. I've 2 refined the unique, which now gives it 60% focus damage per normal attack. Now, I've actually found there's a mix of things with Saruman. I've put Bow Knights on him, and he survives better than what he did before. So I think at the moment they are the perfect unit for him. However, I do also think the second refine on his unique has massively helped his damage output. So those 2 things combined, I can't isolate it to just one because I did them both around the same sort of time. But his power output now for me is really nice. And I'll show that in some reports at the moment. Now, the last time we were doing some videos, I had a Cask of the Submerged Isles here, which I used to have the High Elf helm. And it had protection, but I swapped to a Cask of the Submerged with agility. So I was a little bit faster, I'd got a little bit more unit defense. Command was roughly the same, but I hadn't got this protection set, or fortitude set as it now is. So interestingly, I found this better, and I will show the reports to sort of showcase that in a moment. You find commander level wise when you fight DK that you do have a lot of commanders that you can use, because it's not all about it's more about killing pathers is probably your new merit board, like I say. So your main kind of has to pick its fights as best it can and not chase its own tail and play whack-a-mole. So those are the changes. I will very briefly show you the merit board, which I don't think I did earlier on. So I'm currently in 24th. Raven has found his way to the top again. I would assume because he found a lot of coffer in the last week or so. However, he's found his way to the top, which is impressive considering there is a lot of whack-a-mole on this side. There is a lot of bears in this part of the server. There is some Gondor in there now as well, which is nice to see. It's a good mix. You've got some Linden, you've got some Hunk, you've got some DK, you've got basically everything inside this top 50, and this is why it's been such a great server to see what's been going on. I am hopeful to break into the top 20 at some point if people will just stand still long enough for me to kill them. And this is probably why. So, looking at some reports from the last few days, this is since I made the gear change. So, I've like I said, I've found that we've been a lot better. And Saruman's damage output's probably gone up by about 20k-ish with the troop and the whole unique refinement. And the gear in these comms and the levels in these comms, it's not slouch gear. Some of it is definitely not your optimized gear setting. I mean, that Gandalf there was definitely not what I would consider optimized. But it's still full refined gold formations. This is DK himself, who I really struggled with before. And I understand he's using 2 tier 2 units there, but I am using a Guardian. So, again, I like DK's formation. It's probably a little bit heavy on the agility for me, but Z7, Z7 Bjorn, really nice. Z5 Gandalf the White. I don't know how I feel from a lore perspective about Gandalf the White running around with a black mace, but there you go. And you have a Z10 Dane, which is really nice and makes me very, very envious. And I imagine his rolls are definitely more... they're very similar to mine, actually. So that's probably one thing makes me feel slightly better. But he has gone down the route of defense there. So I thought that was a really, really good win. And just to show, Saruman, really nice damage. Another one, 165k from Saruman. And like I say, the survivability is better. He has died a few times in these fights. But reality is that he survives a lot more. I no longer seem to have the fights where Saruman does sort of 60, 70 to 80k because he's actually surviving through the 10 rounds with the bow knights. I can't believe I found a use for elves, and it's really frustrating. Everyone seems to struggle with DKWK. He has improved a lot since last time we fought these guys. And his formation is a full evil one and does not have Gandalf the White. And he's been doing really well this season. So it's nice to see that you can compete with that. One thing I would say from a shadow perspective is, because I checked this out earlier on, he's getting about 20k from the skill Black Númenórean. For me, with this gear, I would just go heavy into the physical side of it, and I think you'll see probably a drop in Black Númenórean because you'll only have, say, 5 points in there, so you're getting the -10 defense, but you're also getting a lot more attack from this. And I think you'll find that that will outweigh the loss in focus damage. I think you're likely to get probably a 25k increase in your physical damage, mainly due to the fact that he's got the might sets. So for me, I would change that personally. I don't know if he watches his videos, but there you go. So that was a good formation. And then we got the Pokemon Aaron. I'm pretty sure he's a new Pokemon. He runs double trolls, which is a little bit crazy, and then tier 2s. Pretty nuts, really, to do that. But yeah, really nice formation. Runs his Gandalf very similar to mine. Runs his Shadow very focus heavy. So I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. Let's just check into the 56k. I get he's slightly outgunned in this fight, but how much of that 56k is coming from Black Númenórean? So he's getting 20k from Black Númenórean. I would argue that it's not worth it for that, personally. We've been fighting Kizuguro, who is running a lot of cataphracts here. And he's got a nice formation, and I was quite happy with this win, to be honest. Again, they seem to go down the route of they prefer the full refined pieces to not necessarily best in slot pieces, which is fine. I get the principle behind it, and you use what you can. And then I really like this guy. We traded blows a lot yesterday, and I'm probably being a little bit unfair putting the fight in here where I actually beat him. Mainly due to the fact that reality is he's got a really nice formation, and we traded probably 4 or 5 times yesterday, and on most of those times he did actually beat me, but we ended up fighting A team and B team at the same time because it was in kind of like a small area. And the great thing was that my B team really heavily hits his B team, so my B team beats his B team quite significantly. So I was winning the overall trade on the 2 fights, but I wasn't necessarily winning the first fight, which is fine, but, you know, it is a team game. I'm trying to use 2 teams against it. Again, Saruman damage, matching Dane, which from an investment level point of view is really impressive because my Dane does have a full refined unique. So that's good. He always reminds me of the George Ezra song as well, Cassio, for his name. And then we've got Dance, who I think has got 2 formations that are pretty impressive. This was one of them. Really, really nice formation. And again, I was pretty happy with this as a hit. And again, you'll see there from Saruman. Definitely the right unit to use on him at the moment, I think, is the Bow Knight in these kind of formations. Mainly due to the fact that they take less hits because they're ranged. It just means he survives and he can actually get the damage through that he needs to. And to be fair, Dane with Rams, the Rams help him. The survivability in that formation now is really good. So I'm pretty happy with how hard I'm hitting. And that was pretty much everything that I wanted to cover in this video. So there's a few things that are going to be slightly different in the channel. I am going to hopefully start covering some other games. You'll see some updates on different things and thumbnails and stuff because it's just something that I've been trying to do for a while, and hopefully some merchandise. But that's kind of where we're at. As you'll see here, I'm being outpathed from behind, so I'm just going to try and stop this. This is a prime example of what they do. They will send people who are not necessarily full, but because your main's the only thing that I have in this area at the moment, they will move before I take this hit. And then pretty much try and cut you out from the back. The great thing is if he now stops and recalls there, I can do this, which is a really clever piece of play, which I'm quite pleased to get to show. So I reckon I will hit him. Now he's pressed stop. He won't recall in time to actually be able to leave the tile before I hit him. this is a really good way of, there you go. So perfect example of how to play sometimes. Yes, it costs you an extra 10 stamina to make that kind of move. But the reality is that I've just taken out that army, which he didn't want me to take out, just for the simple fact that these use the stop function rather than recall. And that's where sometimes stop's quite dangerous. And if you can trap people in that situation, a little bit similar to a trap guard, but in that one, I call it a trap stop. And I'm really pleased I got to show that at the end of the video. And we'll kind of just look at the report just quick, because that's actually a heavier hit than what I thought it might be. So there you go. He's got a pretty well-built Gandalf for defense. He's got a nice Scalhelm. His Dame with Iron Warriors is really nice, actually. So I'm quite impressed. I don't know why he was running off from me here, because he's pretty strong. So I'm quite pleased with that win. But that was a nice situation to show you how you can trap people like that. And as always, in the meantime, if in doubt, always follow your nose.